Ani, Bojo. My English name is Martina Osawamick. I'm from Wikwemkong, Manitoulin Island. And I'm going to announce my Anishinaabe Noswin. My spirit name is Oganiqua. Oganiqua Digo. Mik Dodem. Makwa Mino Maingan. Denadamagok. Manda Meno Bemadzoen Bemuidon. Equinishing Medewin Dishgabo. So I am from Wikwemkong, and but I live here in Sudbury. And I've lived here in Sudbury for the last couple of years in fall, where I used to travel back and forth. But I do travel back and forth to Wikwemkong. And so today I hold my talking stick here, and I'm just thinking about, the ceremony that I was just in. Nedokewin is what we refer to as ceremony, Nedokewin. So today is a very special day as we acknowledge our ancestors, the feasting of those spirits, the feasting of our ancestors. Mimandani, this is what we know today as. And it's usually just before, the All Souls Day. So as Anishinaabe people, this is one of the very most important things that we do, is feasting our ancestors. And when we think about our ancestors, there's so much that they have given us, way back in time, and I just kind of, as I was looking into the fire today, when we're doing our feasting for those ancestors, I could just see, the amount of knowledge, the amount of Kenda Swin that they gave us, that they passed on to us. Kinage go gashamina going, Gwandaka Pijbomajat. So they thought about the 7 generations ahead. And I think about these ancestors, particularly now, because it is during this time of the month that we honor them in feasting our ancestors. And still many communities do this. In Sagmok, when I was employed at Cambrian years ago as a faculty member, I would take a day off and I would go home, Ginigiwe to Wikwemkong, and I would go and cook all day, and we would feast at nighttime, and we would have ceremony, and everyone would bring their own special dish. Their own special dish for their loved one that might have passed on. And so we acknowledge them. We remember, the Zogidwin, the love that we had for our ancestors. So today I think about that especially, and I think about our ancestors in that way. And when I think back on how much they have taught us, as I said, the Kenda Swin. And, when I particularly think about the land, Manda Oke, Manda Shkakmekwe, I think about how they viewed the universe even as a family. When we think about grandfather sun, grandmother moon, the star life, how they viewed all of that, how that relationship was. well, I always remember, the teaching of one of my grandmothers that said we have to have relationships with whatever it is, relationship to medicine, relationship to the earth. So this comes to my mind when I think about Mother Earth. Having that relationship with Mother Earth is so important. This is what our ancestors, Gwandagan Sokanak, had, that relationship to the land, that relationship to the plant life, to the animal life. So we think about, all of this, when we think about our ancestors. And I was thinking about that today as I was looking into that fire, Wishkode, Chatoshkode, and just, just thinking about how much knowledge that they passed on from generation to generation. Manda, so much knowledge and wisdom that they had, that connection with the land. And sometimes, when we feel, disconnected, which I have gone through, like that disconnection from the land. And but I'll talk about that after. But when we think about that connection that our ancestors had, right from when a newborn baby was born, that afterbirth and that placenta was taken to the land and buried. And that was such a connection to the land when when we go and bury that placenta. And even the umbilical cord, that connection again to the land. And usually, like for my own grandchildren, I always kept that till, they were 7 years old and then buried. So they get to understand why it is that we're burying that umbilical cord. So they get that understanding. Yes, now I'm growing up. Now I need to do things for myself. But I also need to know about why why am I burying my umbilical cord? Again, that's that deep connection with the spirit of Mother Earth. And this is how our ancestors viewed everything. Everything had spirit. The middle is spirit. And the grandfather's sun is spirit. Grandmother Moon is spirit. And the star life. And so when we think about our ancestors, how the belief was that Mother Earth has spirit, so she is the one that brings, the life with the help of grandfather's sun and grandmother moon, bringing that life. And right now, as we see the change of season already happening, and it's starting to get a little bit colder, and so everything is starting to, rest. And we always learn from Mother Earth. We learn from Shkakamikwa. Manda Kendasun, it is time for us to also slow down, and reflect. And that whole reflection, of what has happened prior, for this whole year, we think about that in November, December, and as that year comes to an end, and so that the winter solstice happens. But when we think about how our ancestors viewed everything, kinogogego, having that relationship with the land, with the plant life, and a lot of our ancestors, Gikenda sok, they knew which medicines were for what what is going to be used for. They knew all of this by observing the plant life, the animal life, how everything is connected, and how they observe the animals. And there's so many stories about our animals and the plant life, and how we got to know all about these medicines. And so I think about, this very special day of remembering our ancestors, and that whole connection with the land, and and how they had this Chidbakunigewin, the great law of understanding. And they understood, that Shkakmekwe has a lot of love for all of us to be living here, and it's a lot of Zogidwin. The Creator has that Zogidwin for all of us. And so here we are on Mother Earth, and we think about all those teachings. And I always remember all these teachings, as we may refer them to, the great law, those seven principles of life, the love, the Zogidwin, respect, Mnadendimoin, Akadeewin, bravery or courage, the Badendiswin, Kwekwadsuin, honesty and humility, Kwekwadsuin, and Debwewin, truth, and Wakawin. Those are, the seven principles of this the binding law that our ancestors had. And it really gives me a good feeling, when we think about our loved ones. But we as Nishnabek, we just don't do it the one day, thinking about our ancestors. We can think about them whenever, if we dream about our close ones that have gone on, we can prepare a feast plate for them. Or you have a dream about them, and so you make that feast plate for them, of their favorite food. And so we can do that any time of the year. But I was just having a dream, and I thought, well, I gotta go and buy lamb. My husband loved lamb, and so I went and got that, and this is what I offered into that sacred fire today, as I was also thinking about him, because of the dream that I had. So we respect our dreams, and those are very one of the gifts that Nishnabek were given was that gift of dreams. We were also given that responsibility to be guardian, to have that guardianship of the land. And this is why, a ke, shkakmekwe, is so important. How we use everything, that we need from the land. We say miigwech to the trees that offer themselves. Those are our brothers. The trees, the sisters, our brothers that we use the wood to make our homes. We use, when we think about all the plant life, having a relationship with the plants. A lot of our ancestors had relationships, especially with the medicine people. They had relationships with each and every one of those plants. And, what plant was this one good for? So that relationship is so important, with whatever it is that you're handling with plants. Even our sacred medicine, so our medicine wheel, we think about the tobacco, we think about the cedar, we think about the sage, and then we think about wingash. when I was holding that wingash today, like I was having my braid of sweetgrass, and as I was in ceremony, and I was thinking about how it was braided, and I was thinking about, at that particular time of, because it's that time we're feasting of the Nidok, as we know them as. So I was thinking about, this braid, and looking at the braid. It's about, that one braid of the past of our ancestors. And all I was just really, really deep in thought as I was staring at the fire and also looking at my braid of sweetgrass, thinking about those ancestors of the past, and thinking about that very present moment, that I'm in ceremony. And then after I'm looking at the other braid, and then I'm thinking about, the future. I have to think about the future too as I'm sitting here. So I was looking at all of the braid of the sweetgrass, and thinking about, yes, we have to continue to teach our young ones, teach the youth of all these wonderful, wonderful teachings of our ancestors, and how we didn't go away, when the Indian Act, implemented all these residential schools, and all these things that happened, the Six to Scoop, and Indian Day School. We didn't go away. We're still here. We're still practicing our Anishinaabe. We're still practicing our culture. We're still practicing our heritage. We're still practicing our storytelling. We're still doing all these wonderful ceremonies that, like I talked about, how we're connected to that land, when we go out and fast. And just recently, like I was involved with putting out a faster, and how we had to, build a sweat lodge, and all of the preparations that had to go into a fasting journey for this person. So with all of that, it's that connection that we have with the Ake, which Kakmekwe, Biude and Jashain, we Manoyaing, Memtoake Bashain, Waptojinaing Womtik, Apchunani, Mnashiam, Beneshiak Nondodoa, Tigok Wammadoa, Kinagego Eza Kikwam Daman, Nesain Hujing, Bishwam Daman. So all of these have special, deep connection, when you're out there on the land, by the water, by the tree life, the bird life. You might even see, fish life too, if you're close to the water. You might see, you might see four-legged, maybe a deer nearby, or a moose. You might see the little crawlers on the ground. So much to be grateful for, when you're out there on the land, that reconnection to the land. And I remember, I talked about being disconnected, when I lived in the big city. I was disconnected from the land. And what a wonderful feeling when I first when I first fasted out in the petroglyphs in Peterborough, being out on the land, just being on Mother Earth, and apologizing to Mother Earth, like I lived in the city, and 10 years in Toronto, and saying sorry to Shkokamikwe, because I was not on the land for a long time. I was living on, in this cement ground. So having that connection with the bird life, the water, those four-legged, those swimmers, the fish life, and the crawlers. Wow, what an experience that is. And sometimes, when we're out there, we can, like sometimes we're going through so much stress in the city. But how calming is that, when you're out in the bush? How calming is that to your spirit? Your spirit is there with the spirit of the land. And so when we think about that, you're also in connection to the spirits of your ancestors because they are there with you on the land. When you call them, they are there. Geget gumanda kwatanenishin manda pimadzuin. Manda sa ejeked mageni. Kashmina going so manedo. Kashmina going when the kina anso kanak. Kashmina going gigin wicked simnanik. Manda sa kashewinch gewin. That kindness that we were given by our parents, and to be able to grasp and have that understanding of our history, important to learn about our history as Native people. The things that our ancestors have how would I say giskaknana mandanibana gikidona gi aninchu gikendana manda midash wanda giant kemiguat. So with the people that took these teachings, because we wouldn't have them today if those special people were not around to bring those teachings back from our ancestors. All the ceremonies that left us, but they were practiced secretly, in the homes of some people. And so now, with all of these ceremonies that we have in Wikwam Kong, and the wealth of knowledge of our knowledge keepers, I'm so grateful, that that the help is there, when people want to learn, when people want to get to know about ceremonies, get to know about dreams, get to know about their ancestors. And so I think today, especially today, being at ceremony where I just came from, we started at 10 and we finished at close to 1 o'clock today. So I really give gratitude, and I was wondering, the beauty of just being there by that sacred fire. I was always told, to look deep within that sacred fire. They are there. Those teachings are there. And just being so grateful about life, that minobimadsuin. Gayetwa ngitchinendam. Bangigeni hibekegi gidiansa. Nangosaman pi migishgak. Andasageni bangi kabedbatamasa. Migwech rendam dashnango memdige. Migwech niket gibibsindo yek. Migwech. Aho.